Okay, let me read to you all this post. Joyce Brothers rose to fame in the 1950s as the first woman to win the game show, The $64,000 Question. Despite producers' attempts to prevent her victory by giving her exceptionally different questions, she answered them all correctly and secured her place in game show history. Now, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this because this is a white woman being played by white men, right? But there's something really important that sticks out, and it also applies to black people, okay? Let's get into this. Now, let me throw out an assumption here, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because there are exceptions to every rule, I guess, right? But let me throw out an assumption here. I'm going to assume that prior to this white woman winning, all of the winners had been white men, because I really doubt in the 1950s they were letting black men come on there and win. And I'm not even going to mention black women, because clearly if they had an issue with the white woman winning, then they definitely wasn't letting no black women on that show, right? So I'm throwing that out there because I feel like a lot of times white people vastly overestimate how oppressed they are based on whatever axis of oppression they are the victim of, right? So like white women, white gay people, etc., right? They really overestimate how oppressed they are. And I really do believe that whiteness supersedes any marginalized identity you may have. So I'm saying this because, again, I really doubt they was letting black men on this show, but they wasn't letting white women on it, right? And a lot of white women like to compare, and they'll say, oh, golly gee willikers, we're more oppressed than black men, but that's just not true. Now, again, I'm not even going to mention black women because we black and women, so we all know we're the most oppressed, right? But as it pertains to people who are only oppressed on one axis, I'm telling y'all right now, white people always have more privilege than black people. Whatever the axis of oppression is, it doesn't matter, okay? So my point in saying all that is I'm positive, okay? And I would be shocked if somebody showed me the winners and, it was shown otherwise. I'm positive that up until this point, all of the people going on this show were white men, right? I'm positive. So then this white woman comes on the show and they don't give her a fair shot. They literally say they attempted to prevent her victory by giving her exceptionally difficult questions. Now, my thing is this. If it was really true that white men are the smartest in the world, then why would they need to give this white woman exceptionally difficult questions to keep her from winning? If white men were the smartest in the world, then wouldn't y'all be able to give white men the harder questions and they still win? Or like at the very least, wouldn't y'all be able to give white men the same questions as everybody else and they still win? What are you trying to prove by giving people who are not white men harder questions? Because in one breath, y'all claim that y'all are smarter than us and so and so and so. But then in the other breath, when we compete against y'all have to do something like this. Give us harder questions, right? Now, I'm saying this because, again, this is about a white woman going on a show and white men trying to keep her from winning, right? But this same exact thing happens with black people all of the time. White people sit there and swear that black people are dumb and lazy and so and so and so, right? So you would assume that they would have no issue with an even playing field, right? If they really believe that they're smarter than us and more hardworking and so and so and so, they wouldn't need things to be skewed in their favor, right? But they always have things skewed in their favor, just like on this game. Let's just think of an example, right? White people will sit there and say that they're smarter than black people. Okay, if that's the case, then they shouldn't have any issue with black people getting an equal education, right? But they've always had an issue with that. Like first they had separate but equal, right? Allegedly, when really the black schools had none of the resources that the white schools had. Absolutely not, right? The black schools couldn't afford books or nothing. The kids couldn't afford to go to school year round. They had to drop out of school to help their families pick stuff during harvest season, all of this other stuff, right? But white people swear that they just naturally smarter than us, right? So if they just naturally smarter than us, then why do they go so hard to make sure that we don't have any of the resources that they do and that there's a completely unlevel playing field? And this is not just something that happened during Jim Crow with the separate but equal and all of that stuff, right? This is something that happens to this day. White people and non-black people, period, because it's not just white people, right? They swear that they're so much smarter than us, But when I tell you they have so many more resources than us, like, y'all don't even get it, bro. Because I went to Detroit public schools my whole life, right? And then as an adult, I started teaching chess. So I go into all types of schools. I go into black schools, I go into white schools, I go into Asian schools. When you go into them white and Asian schools, the amount of resources that they have is like mind-boggling. I'm not even joking, right? Then these people will sit here and say, yeah, we're smarter than black people. Well, I mean, look at the resources that you have versus the resources that black schools have. Like, yeah, maybe you can read a little bit better because y'all have a fully equipped library and a librarian, and every class gets to go to the library every day to read and so and so and so. Meanwhile, the black schools can't afford no damn books, ain't no full-time librarian, ain't no this, ain't no that, all of this stuff, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe you can read a little better. Not because you're actually smarter, but because you have all of this stuff that black people don't. And this is my thing. If y'all really believe that y'all were actually smarter than us and all of this other stuff, you wouldn't have to go so hard to make sure that we are disenfranchised. And this interaction with this white woman on this game show sums this up so well. I'm sure these men were talking shit about, oh, women can't go on the game shows and yada, 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 so and so and so, right? If they really believe that shit, then why would they have to go out their way to make the questions harder in order to try to make her lose? Now, the crazy thing is they gave her these exceptionally difficult questions to keep her from winning, and she still won, right? She answered the questions the white men probably could not have answered. And this brings up such a good point that black people say all the time. You got to go twice as hard to win half as much, right? So we can sit here and say, yeah, Becky won the game show and so did Brad. I guess they're equally smart, right? But no, Becky had to go twice as hard. She had to answer questions that were much harder than Brad had to answer. But all of the Brads are going to paint it as, oh, well, she won and we won. It was the same thing, right? But that's never the case. And let me get back to black people. Y'all will sit there and say, oh, yeah, this black person got, this degree, this whatever. Okay, we fought the same fight. We had to work just as hard. But that's not the case because black people have all of these extra obstacles in our way to get to these things that you all do not have. Y'all talk all this shit about how y'all are so much smarter and so much thisser and so much thatter, but y'all actions be saying something else. Y'all actions be saying something else every single time.